We have some horrible, horrible news to report on today. A kidnapping occurred in Chicago a couple days ago. I'm not exactly sure what the timeline is, but a kidnapping occurred. And four black kids came in, abducted, and kidnapped a white kid with special needs who was a Trump supporter and tortured him. Just straight up tortured. Cut his clothes. They hit him. They kicked him. They punched him. They made him say F Donald Trump. They made him say, while they were also saying, F Donald Trump, F white people. And they cut his hair, revealing the scalp. So it's pretty hardcore. It's pretty dangerous. It's pretty gross. The kid was found and was released by them and went to a hospital. And I'm not sure, at the time of recording, about 11 o'clock in the morning on January 5th, I'm not exactly sure his status, if he's alive, if he's doing well. Maybe he suffered too bad of injuries, he may be dead. I'm not sure. I can't report on that. All I know is he was taken to a hospital. This is horrible. This is really bad. This is gross. This is not how human beings should be treating one another. This is horrible, horrible, and nasty behavior, and it's gross, and all four of them should be thrown in jail for hate crimes and for being racist. They specifically said, F white people. It's a hate crime. It's at the very least bigoted. At the most extreme, racist. So, for sure, all four of them, no question about it. Or at least the ones who said F white people. The other ones could be charged, maybe not with a hate crime, but with battery or assault. But the ones who said F white people, 100% in jail for a hate crime and racism. Now, the bigger picture here is something that is much more interesting, because I think a lot of people misunderstand what people are saying about this story, because the story isn't the first one of this. It's happening. It's been happening. Racism is America's ugliest scar. It's the way I put it. It's healed, but it's still noticeable, and it's the ugliest scar America has, is openly bigoted toward other people. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, and we've obviously made improvements. I'm just saying that it's still there, and it's not anything you can sweep under the rug. You can't. It's not something you can just get rid of, So I think this opens up a bigger conversation to have, because a lot of people don't understand that everyone agrees on this. At least I would assume a lot of people on both sides of the political spectrum agree that all four of them should be in jail. That this is on race. This is a hate crime. This should not happen to anybody under any circumstances whatsoever. So we all agree that this is bad. And then, for some reason, I was browsing through Twitter, and it's just filled with. It's the Twitter hashtag is hashtag BLM kidnapping, and it's just filled with people not giving any solutions on both sides of the political spectrum. On both sides, nobody's giving any issues. So the way I look at it, being a millennial, leaning to the left, being a Democrat, but not a Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton Democrat, more of a Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard, Keith Ellison type of Democrat, where we shouldn't take money from Wall Street and ExxonMobil and the tobacco company. You should be listening towards the people. Bernie Sanders was making $27 on average from donations by individual people. So that type of Democrat. Being a millennial and looking at it from that specific point of view, I can see criticism on both sides, because, again, we both agree. 100%. We both agree that this is horrible, that this is grotesque, this should not happen in America. It's based on race, it's a hate crime. All four should be thrown in jail, at the very least. 100%. We both agree. But where I think people disagree and where they differ from people is, on the left, you have, for some reason, a hard time to report on this. And maybe it's just the people I follow, they're not up at 10:30 in the morning, so they're not tweeting about it. And at the same time, I'll give it that maybe the left doesn't report on it, and there are some very obvious headline changes, how CNN worded the headline. But one of the criticisms of the right and the Donald Trump supporters is that it's nowhere. It's nowhere on mainstream TV. CNN had it, NBC had it, New York Times and Washington Post all wrote articles on it. It's everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. So that's false. You're wrong. It's everywhere. People are talking about it. I saw that all over the Twitter hashtag. On the right, you had people saying it's nowhere. It's nowhere. The left, they just can't do it, and they're partially correct. The left can't. It's till no fault of their own. It's the way that they report it, and yes, that's not good. But you're also wrong in the fact that it's nowhere. And being that I do lean left-leaning, I see more criticism and more on the right. I feel like there's more of a outburst of anger, but no solutions. Whereas on the left, people are upset, but they're not getting. They're angry about it, but they also have been talking about solutions for the past couple of years. And that's where people don't understand is that the solutions the left are thinking of, people don't want to hear. So let me go ahead and just break this down really quick. The left hasn't called it what it is. It's a hate crime. It's racism. But the left has also been the one that's been calling to decriminalize marijuana so that these African Americans who do have possession of marijuana, they won't have a felony on their record and they won't get arrested for it. The left has been calling for more lenient easing of drug-related offenses. Obama has released a massive amount, new records of non-violent drug offenders in jail. Meaning they had drugs, maybe it was possession, maybe they were on it, maybe they were selling it, but it was non-violent. It didn't cause violence. So he releases them. So it's been a new record. The left is also the one that wants to go with paying for an education system, a better education system, making it easier for people to get in, a daycare center, a daycare system where black mothers, black fathers can send their kids to daycare instead of leaving them at home while they go to work, you know? And so the left is the one that I understand where you may not think that these are the right solutions, but they're solutions that we haven't tried yet. That there's no stats to back it. Well, there are stats to back it up on both ends, but there's no significant data to say that this works or it doesn't work. We just haven't tried it yet. There's not enough. There's data to guess on why it might work and why it might not work, but there's no substantial data on why that proves that it will work or not work. We just have hypotheses. But the problem with the right and the Republicans is that they think that, and it's very obvious what they think, because they think that, okay, look, they had 200 years of being slaves. They had they had like 50 or 60 years of segregation, and then they got free. They had 260 years of like oppression or something. And that math is completely wrong. I understand. I'm not good at math. But it doesn't just go away. If you were running a race, you don't get to be behind 10 seconds and then win the race. You don't get to be enslaved and then you don't get to be segregated and have Jim Crow laws and then expect to, just because you get voting rights and because you get a couple other freedoms, that, okay, well, now everything's good. Everything's okay. No. Black families don't make as much money as white families. That's just true. Now, why is that? Maybe because, they have jobs, but the study I think I saw was white families make, on average, they are worth, I think the study was when you get married. I think a white couple who gets married is worth like $100,000. They on average could be making like between $80,000 and $100,000 together. Black family, I think, is making like 20 to 40, 20 to 50,000. I'm not sure what the actual statistics are, but there are a bunch of statistics on that just being black is already you are it's a downside. You don't have the same privileges, I'm going to use that word, as white people. And that's not saying that, because the bigger problem with the right on this issue is that they think that they were born this way. It's in their culture, it's in their blood. I am of the opinion that I don't think anybody really wants to be in that situation. People do it to survive. And it may be immoral and it may be wrong, but people do it to survive. So, it's a complicated thing, and I'm not, because I want to reiterate, we both agree on both sides that all four should be thrown in jail for hate crime, and this is racism. We both agree. We all understand. But where we disagree is why it happened and how it happened. To me, it seems like the left kind of understands that you don't just automatically become equal because you have freedom. Where the right still kind of believes that, well, I mean, they have it, so why are they complaining? Why are they complaining? And then you show them statistics on, like, white and blacks do drugs on the same rate, but blacks are incarcerated 4 times as likely. 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 white males are caught and arrested for drugs, while it's like, no, I've got it backwards. 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 black people are arrested every time they are found with drugs. 1 in 17 people who are white are arrested with drugs. So you show them statistics like that, and they either don't really acknowledge it or they dodge, and you can't. They dodge to a different problem, and that's like, and so it's on race. You can't sweep race under the rug. That's just the simple fact. Look, this happened to a white person, so obviously race is a big deal in this story. So, but again, that's the problem with the Republicans and the right, is that they don't want to talk about race. They don't, these cops killing unarmed black people, they go, why are you bringing race into this? And I'm like, I understand where you're coming from, but race is still a big issue. And I am of the opinion that I'm not going to not do anything about it. I'm going to try to make other people's lives better and easier. And if that means talking about race, well, then I'm going to fucking talk about race. And so I think that this is a much more complicated issue, in that we both agree on what happened in the story, but the bigger picture that this story opens up is where we disagree and where we have our faults. So the left isn't calling it what it is, but the right doesn't want to hear any solutions because they dodge. They are. It's just, I don't know. It's a complicated issue. That's really what it comes down to. It's a very complicated issue, and it's not something that we can solve. There isn't one magical bill we can sign into law that will solve every issue. We have to test things. We have to try to pass certain things on both sides of the political spectrum and make sure that they work. So, this is what happened. I just want to leave with one other thing. And this is another big issue on the right, is that, so apparently when the story broke, alt-right white supremacists, people like Steve Bannon and a couple other people, they just started trending hashtag BLM kidnapping. Well, a couple sources I found said that, first of all, Mediaite said that there's no relationship between the 4 of the black people who committed the crime and Black Lives Matter. You go to Black Lives Matter website, I try to look at their goals, and I don't see how you can interpret any of that as torturing people. Also, someone said that they watched the whole video, and I've seen bits and pieces, and a couple people have said that they've seen the whole video, and that Black Lives Matter has mentioned an exact number of 0 times. Black Lives Matter is mentioned 0 times in the video. So, I'm waiting for more facts, but as of right now, I'm probably 90% sure that it's just a very far right, alt-right, white supremacist thing to say, well, Black Lives Matter because they're black. Like, there's no proof. There's no connection between the four of them and Black Lives Matter. You go to the Black Lives Matter website, you look at their goals, it doesn't say, we would like equal justice reform. We want blacks to be treated the same and have the same rights and privileges as white people and not be more often to get incarcerated than white people. Oh, and torture people. Just openly torture people. No, that's just not how that works. And people have said they've seen the whole video, and Black Lives Matter is mentioned 0 times. So take the Black Lives Matter thing with a grain of salt. They just want to paint it as this horrible organization that is very complicated as well. So take the whole Black Lives Matter thing. Wait for more details for the Black Lives Matter thing. But as of right now, I can pretty much say that there's no connection between them, and I'm pretty confident in saying that. So, horrible story out of Chicago today. Hopefully we can come together and do something to figure this out. It's needed.